Hi, I'm Thorsten, and this is Literature in Pictures. I'm on my journey through the Modern Marvel Cosmic Saga by DNA. And for all of you who expect me to read this one today, I am very sorry I have to disappoint you, because today we're gonna do a surprise interlude, bonus interlude, reading House of M. Why are we reading House of M today? What does that have to do with the Modern Cosmic Saga, and why are we not talking about the Road to War of Kings today? Well, that is because after I opened up the Road to War of Kings, I was presented with a larger summary of the events of House of M. So there's a whole page that summarizes House of M. Then we are going into Son of M before reading X-Men Deadly Class and Silent War. Next up is Secret Invasion Inhumans, before we actually start with the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 through 6, Nova 13 to 22, back to the Guardians, back to Nova, the origin of Richard Rider, and then the War of Kings saga. So fairly large chunk in the beginning of the Road to War of Kings actually is a follow-up to the events of House of M that seem to be very, very relevant to what's happening in the Cosmic Saga. That's why I decided before I actually start reading the Road to War of Kings that I would want to read House of M. I've never read House of M, unfortunately, other than the Cosmic Saga. I know what it's about. I was exposed to spoilers, so it's not going to be a complete blind read, but I've never read it. But this one is still sealed, never read the stories in here, so we're gonna open this up and go from there. With regards to the Road to War of Kings, I will do that next week. So if you have a little bit more patience, please hit subscribe and the bell for notifications so you'll be notified when I upload my video next week talking about the Road to War of Kings, and then weeks after the actual event, War of Kings, before we go into the aftermath to War of Kings, which is Realm of Kings. But yeah, I'm halfway through almost my Modern Cosmic Saga run. If you want to go back and review with me the events of Annihilation or Annihilation Conquest, please do so. They're in the same playlist, or videos are gonna be linked to up here. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about House of M today. Something I always wanted to read, and when I saw the first few pages in The Road to War of Kings, I knew that was the moment, that was the time to read it. Skipping over that now would have meant I probably would have never gotten back to it, but surprise interlude, House of M Omnibus. Annihilation Classic. Annihilation. Annihilation Conquest. Road to War of Kings. War of Kings. Realm of Kings. The aftermath. So let's open the House of M Omnibus by Brian Michael Bendis and Oliver Coipel. And under the dust jacket, you get this wonderful image. I think issue 6 or 7 is when that's in the book. Of the whole family. The dust jacket here. and Wanda falling apart. So this review, again, is full of spoilers. If you haven't read this, at least the main series, you should go ahead and do that first. But yeah, what do we have in here? We have House of M 1 through 8. That's the main event. And then you have a bunch of tie-ins, miniseries, all kinds of stuff. You got Spider-Man, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Black Panther, Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine, Iron Man, Captain America, The Pulse, Cable and Deadpool, Incredible Hulk, Hulk Broken Worlds, Book 1, New X-Men, Exiles, Mutopia X, Decimation, House of M the Day After, which is really the only Aftermath story. I don't know why they put Giant Size Miss Marvel after that one, but Decimation, House of M the Day After is really the wrap up of all of that, because all those tie-ins and all the miniseries are happening during the main event, the 8-issue main series that kicks off with House of M1. And again, just a small quick summary, or what's the premise? The premise is that Wanda Maximoff has gone off creating a world in which she has 2 kids that isn't reality, and just going batshit crazy, she has in the past killed some X-Men, Hawkeye, for example, Vision, and Ant-Man. But there's a summary here of what happened previously in Uncanny X-Men and in the Avengers. So the Avengers are basically no more, the old Avengers are no more, team of new Avengers forms. That's all prior to this. So you don't have any of this in here. You get, again, there's really short recap, and then there's this page here. It summarizes everything, but then we're basically in this event in the first issue, which sees Professor X, Charles Xavier, bringing in his teams, bringing in the X-Men, the Avengers, and kind of forming a council to decide what to do with Wanda. And they haven't really made up their mind. They're discussing whether they should go and kill her, but I don't think there has been a clear outcome there. But before they can go and do that, or while they're on their way to face Wanda and talk to her first before, well, they would probably eventually battle her. You have Pietro here, who is not happy with it. He, I guess, eavesdropped on them because he's like, I was just in New York. It's like, so do I see you somewhere in the background? No, I don't. But he was there listening to that conversation. There are some that are opposed to this. Captain America, for example, and Brian Michael Bendis wrote in, there's a story in here, or like I think it was an afterword, where he wrote that he had to still stay true to the characters, so Marvel would never allow him to make Captain America say, yes, let's go and kill her. So there have to be some opposing voices. But in the end, that's what's discussed, and that's what kicks off Pietro's, Wanda's, and Magneto's search for help, really, as well, as they're trying to figure out what to do, or more Pietro and Wanda. Pietro that convinces Wanda that, well, we got to do something. I don't think Magneto was involved in this at all. And yeah, as they are getting close in Genosha, the world fades to white. And we're waking up in a different reality where Peter Parker now is married to Gwen Stacy. Later we find out they have a kid as well. That's the end of 1. Issue 2, you get a small overview of where everyone has been. Just a brief overview. It's Captain America, never been frozen in ice, so he's old. And you learn through those pages that everyone now has mutant powers. And there are hardly any humans left anymore. The few humans are living in ghettos in certain areas of the world hardly find any jobs. There's not much for them to do. Roles have kind of reversed there, except for the humans not being superior in skill. And then you got the first ones waking up from this or realizing something's wrong. You got Logan, who has memories of his former life or of this life. This seems weird. He's suddenly shield agent here for House Magnus, and he goes off and tries to find out what's wrong, what's happened to him. He remembers certain aspects because his brain has been wiped out so many times that I guess even Wanda can't establish a new reality that holds. And he jumps off and goes on a search. And he finds out, again, what we find out, what's happened to some of those characters and what their new lives are now. Basically, what this is supposed to be, it is, again, Logan finding out that there is no school, that Charles Xavier never founded that school, and it's just a normal residence for a family. But the premise is that everyone was supposed to be happy. Wanda's wish was for everyone to be happy. And I don't think that's the case for everyone here. Like, not everyone got what they wanted. You got Luke Cage, who remembers his kid as well. And he's definitely not, they're all not happy, but I guess they've been woken up. How have they been woken up? Well, we find out in issue 4, that's her first appearance, through this girl, Layla Miller, back here. She's the one who has the mutant power of waking up those that have been brainwashed. She has to kind of access their minds. She doesn't know how she accesses their minds, but that's her superpower. That's her mutant power, right? And why does she have those mutant powers? Well, that's explained at the beginning of issue 8, skipping ahead here, where you see her in this one panel and she wakes up in her bedroom that is full of posters of Hawkeye, Spider-Man, X-Men, Captain America here. But she's a fan, Moon Knight, fan of superheroes. And I guess for her to be happy, for her wish to be granted, when Wanda changed the word in the beginning, she became just that. She wanted to be a part of the team, and through those mutant powers of waking people up, waking them up from that bad nightmare, she got what she wanted. She became a part of this team and got to fight alongside of them. And I mean, those are the ones that were part of this crew, right? You have Hawkeye, who used to be dead and came back in here. Spider-Man, who is one of the first ones that they go and wake up after Wolverine joins them, joins the underground team around Luke Cage. And so they go around and wake up people one by one. See where Charles has been kept. And more we're getting this team of superheroes together. Them realizing what happened to their lives. I don't know if that's what made them happy, but yeah, we get this team that now has to fight the House of M. Magneto rules Earth. He doesn't like to be called Magneto. Spider-Man here, remembering. And really, that's the main thing. This series, the 1 through 8 main event, is actually great writing. Like, I liked it. I liked the premise. I liked the execution. I have no real issues with the main event, the first 8 issues in here. And at first I was a little bit bummed about the mapping, not knowing anything about this going in, because again, we wrap everything up. Everything is wrapped up at the end of chapter 8 here. And then we get into the miniseries. We'll talk about them later, probably just briefly, because they are all happening while the main event is going on. And like, I don't know, I usually like chronological mappings, But in this case, it makes sense. You would have to put, I don't even know where you would put them. Issue 1 and 8 of the main event are kind of like the setup and the wrap up. And you have 2 through 7 while they're all in this world, the House of Magnus, the Earth being ruled by Magneto. But there's no real place where you could put them. So they're all happening in parallel, which is kind of funny because some of those characters in here are all the time with the main team. Like Spider-Man is one. So you have Spider-Man and then they go on, he joins them and they go on and wake up. Kitty Pryde, Stephen Strange, Carol Danvers and so on. And then they form this team. But Spider-Man's always with the team. And then they pretty fast after that, I think next issue already, go to take on Magnus. Crashing through the ceiling and fight them. So there is no real time for this mini-series here around Peter Parker's universe. Spider-Man feels super disconnected. This is not the same Spider-Man that we see in the main event. Absolutely not. He was happy with his kids, with Gwen there, and like he gets very sick when he realizes that that's not the real world in here. That's super disconnected. Like it doesn't make any sense. I think they just try to explain why he's bold. I don't know. Like Mark Waid is a great writer, but I don't think he was given the information that he needed to make this actually connect. It's still a great story. It just isn't really connected to House of M. For the characters that show up in the main event, especially those part of the team, Spider-Man and so on, Wolverine even, the tone of the miniseries does not match the tone of this one. Their decisions are not the same. They don't live the same life. That is explained in here later on. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. One example here is Victor Von Doom, who is in his miniseries. So we have the Fantastic Four miniseries. So he is the main protagonist of the Fantastic Four House of M miniseries. He rules his own estate, but you're reminded all the time that he actually is only considered an henchman of Magnus. He works for Magneto and he actually plots to dethrone Magneto. Or his mother is constantly telling him, you're meant for more, go and do something. And so he tricks Magneto and his children through this teleporter, the extra dimensional transporter, to be transported to a world where Magnus cannot use his powers. And there he plans on killing him. Well, he fails. They're entering there, king for a day, but he fails and he's being punished. So, but the tone of this is Magnus the boss. Magnus tells Victor what to do. But then here in the main event, you have Van Doom showing up and Magnus telling him, I was quite surprised to receive your RSVP. Well, as if he had an option. Where either this happens before his coup attempt, must have been, because after his coup attempt that he wouldn't be in this position anymore. But if it happened before and they are not at odds at this point, it can't, because right after, this is the gala where we have the team attacking. Like Victor Von Doom is at this event. Here you get the cover image from the actual book. And then they're already crashing through the ceiling. So Victor Von Doom is at the event where they're being attacked, being nice enough to show up, when in the miniseries here, you have them fighting. Like you have Victor Von Doom attacking Magnus, again, losing, but then left with nothing. So it doesn't make sense how he's at this event, having the option to decline, not doing so, and then being attacked. So the miniseries, most of them don't tie in really to the main event here. And then we get to the finale here, issue 7, you basically have the main fight. You have them getting through, or Stephen Strange getting through to Wanda. He finds out that it's been Pedro who has been convincing her to alter the world and for her to put mutants in charge because that's what her dad always wanted. But that also not being enough, because he's very much not happy with the events that unfold here. And Magneto basically telling Pietro, like, no, this is what should have happened. She's nuts. Maybe it's the right choice to kill her. And then in the process, he battles his own son and puts him down. Wanda, being very upset about it, brings him back to life. But now being upset with her dad, and then uttering those words like, no, you don't get what you want. You've messed us up. You've messed up the world. I gave you everything you wanted. You're still not happy. Let's take your favorite toy away. No more mutants. And then, yeah, issue 8, we're waking up to this new old world where some remember, some don't, that House of M ever happened. Those that were woken up by Layla are the ones that are remembering the events of House of M. Others just wake up and realize they've lost their powers. Some have kept their powers. Wolverine has kept his powers. Emma has kept her powers. Iceman hasn't. And that's basically part of the aftermath. There's another issue back there. That's the aftermath. Can skip to that. That is Decimation, House of M, the day after. That's really the only issue in here that has the day after covered as part of a tie-in. That is alright, but I don't know if it's needed. You get an overview at least of, okay, who's depowered, who isn't. You find out Jubilee has lost her powers. And then basically discussing what's happening with the school. They're sending the kids home that have lost their powers. Those kids being upset and feel betrayed, understandably so. One day to another, they're like, yep, you're no longer here. That was their family, right? They've left their families to be at the school, and now they're being sent home. And we're back to mutants being viewed as freaks, kind of. In a world where everyone's back to being human. Because yes, most people don't remember that they had mutant powers, I guess. So they just woke up and either was back to normal. Those mutants that had powers before the House of M and lost them, they know that they lost their powers and stuff has changed for them. For the majority of the population, the ones that didn't have powers prior to House of M, now wake up and don't have powers. I don't think anything's changed for them because they can't remember the events of House of M. So things are just normal to them. And then here, yeah, Jubilee not picking up the phone when Wolverine calls her. Let's go back to the main event, or actually, I think we're done with the main event. It just in small summary. House of M follows the events of Avengers Disassembled. Wanda loses her imaginary children, goes nuts. Pietro tries to protect her and talks her into reshaping the world once again. The House of Magnus rules Earth, and everyone on Earth got what they wanted. Wolverine's memories came back and he partners up with others to figure out what happened. Everyone suspects Magneto. In the end, it was Wanda who felt betrayed by her father, who wants the old world order back. And then she utters the words, no more mutants, as she sees them as Magneto's preferred race. And we already talked about Fantastic Four, Victor Von Doom. Also a good story. It has some loopholes, but overall you can read it. Again, doesn't connect at all to the main event. Like, he cannot plan a coup and being treated by Magnus like that when in the main event he has the freedom to do what he wants, kind of, and finds his end or is part of the assembly that gets attacked when in here they have their fallout before. In the Wolverine issues, you get a little bit more of what Logan goes through when he jumps off that transporter. Also a good series, but disconnected, absolutely disconnected from the main event. Again, and all of this just feels so inconsequential because they all live in the House of M realm world that, you know, it's gonna end, and it doesn't matter what they do here, doesn't matter. It feels the characters are not who they are usually. If you want to read a story about Peter Parker or about Logan that completely behaves different to what you would expect in a world that is not theirs, yeah, by all means, go and read it. I wish I hadn't. This whole omnibus felt like a waste of time. None of those were really that good. I mean, some were good, some weren't, but none of this was connected to House of M, really. Other than, oh, we live in a world that's ruled by Magnus. So earlier in the main event, we saw just briefly how Hank Pym is isolating the mutant gene. In here, he's told, don't go to Tony Stark and tell him because he does not want that. You get fired. But then in the miniseries here, in Iron Man House of M1, you have him talking to Tony Stark about it. And again, it doesn't align. It doesn't match what's happening in House of M. Cable and Deadpool is a very fun story. Fabian Nicieza at it. I think that's one of the best tie-ins, one of the best stories in this book that's just fun. I really had a lot of fun reading it. Again, whether it's connected or not, because none of the characters show up, right, in the main event. But I just had fun reading it. I truly enjoyed this one-shot. Incredible Hulk. I don't know. There were many story holes in this one. So even as a standalone, I couldn't enjoy it too much. There's some stuff here that it's just badly researched. Nothing against Peter David. But Uluru is holy. It's a spiritual, holy place to the Aborigines that live around it. They would never climb it and sit on top. Like, actually, when you go and visit, you have signs there that ask you please not to climb it. You can still do so if you choose, but it's very disrespectful. They would not sit on top of Uluru and discuss those things. And then you have Exiles here. Really fun to read. I really liked this miniseries. Again, there aren't that many contradictions with the House of M because those characters don't show up in House of M. So I guess that's a good thing. Mutopia X 1 through 5, I think was one of the miniseries that I actually enjoyed connecting with the characters with. That works as a standalone, even perhaps. I mean, it's a follow-up to District X, but you have this personal trauma or this family who's being torn apart by the death of a child and infidelity that you get to follow 4 or 5 issues that works as a standalone. I really liked the writing on this. I think it was fun. It was interesting and had good ideas. And you could really connect with the characters in here. Not able to contradict the main event because none of those show up. I think you can forget about the miniseries. You don't need them. You don't need them at all to understand the story. Actually, the contrary is true. If you read them, you understand the main event less, then you go back and read it again. And then you're like, okay, now I'm back on track. This was fun. But please, yeah, don't confuse me with the tie-ins. There's some extras here. Just skipping through them. Covers explanations, background material, sketches, scripts. I think most interestingly is the complete issue of The Pulse, where you basically have newspaper articles written about the people in here, the heroes in here, and what they've been up to. It's interesting to read, but again, overall, if you have tie-ins, miniseries that aren't really following what's being described here, then what's the point? Overall, the build of the book. That's a nice eye. I've read this once. And will probably not read it again. I should say I will probably not read the tie-ins again. I actually enjoyed the main event, House of M 1 through 8. I wish I had just read that one. So if you want to read House of M, do so 1 through 8, and then you can tip your toes in the water with 1 or 2 of the miniseries and decide if it's for you. Don't expect it to be connected to this universe other than, hey, you live somewhere else, you got what you wanted, but you're in a different place than you were in the main event. There's a lot of stuff in here. Again, it's not connected, so it just feels like a chore to read sometimes, because after you're done with the main event, you get all of those disconnected series that just feel like a lot of content that you don't really need.
Thoughts on House of M Omnibus? The main event is great, but the tie-ins are disconnected. I don't like House of M, and that is my god honest opinion. I thought the event was lame. Beautiful artwork. But you are 100% correct in that the miniseries and tie-ins are so disconnected, because I've mentioned this before. The Spider-Man you're reading about in Mark Waid's miniseries is completely different than the Spider-Man you're reading about in the House of M miniseries, even though it's in the same world. It makes no damn sense.
You know, House of M, I love Bendis. I do love all his writing. But my issue with House of M is the same as my issue with New Avengers, is that they kind of use and torture Wanda. The writers do, and I'm aware these are fictional characters, but in New Avengers and House of M, they use this trope of her children to get her angry and reboot the whole universe so they can go on with their story. And it's like a 4-page thing, and the Wanda goes nuts and the whole thing gets changed, or, you know, New Avengers happens and then House of M happens with no more mutants. But I don't know. Can't they use something else? Can't they figure out something else besides having Wanda go nuts over the fact that she doesn't have children? Even though we just had 2 years ago a great movie, the Doctor Strange movie, Into the Multiverse, or whatever it was called, Madness of the Multiverse, whatever that movie was. I really enjoyed that. But Scarlet Witch again was looking for these kids. That seems to be it's not. Is it lazy, or is it just not creative? Is she the only one who has power to reboot the universe and start a story? So I've talked an awful lot about this, so I'll stop.
Okay, I'm just gonna Richard Pictures. I'll answer about House of M. I didn't like House of M. It was, yeah, didn't like it.
Okay.
And that was my review of House of M Omnibus by Brian Michael Bendis and Oliver Coipel. Am I glad I read this one before heading into Road to War of Kings? I don't know. I haven't read this one yet, so I'll find out and let you know next week whether I think this one is a necessary read. But this one has way too many House of M aftermath issues in it. that I could have just skipped this one. So I felt like I needed to read this one. Am I glad I read this one? Yes, I'm glad I read the main event. The first 8 issues, I think, were great writing, great plotting. I think characters were treated right. I know I've heard from many that they think characters weren't treated the way they should have been. Wanda was mistreated. And I do not share those thoughts. I think having concerns for your children, for your father, for your brother, especially with a mental illness, are legitimate concerns. Everyone with kids and being close to their parents understands that you would probably do anything to help them, especially if they're kind of playing on your mental illness. So if anyone was treated incorrectly, it might have been Piero, who abuses the mental illness of his sister to get her to do things that she might have not done otherwise. But even then, he tries to protect her from getting killed. So I do understand the motivations of those characters. I do like the writing of the 8 issues. But do I still regret reading this omnibus? And that answer probably is yes, because 90% of it is not needed. The tie-ins are disconnected. They don't make sense. They will probably never, ever again play a role in any other series, because at the end, in issue 7, 8, Wonder again changes the world. And I cannot see how those tie-ins, those miniseries, play a role later on, other than, again, what happens in the main event that is referenced later on, and it has an impact on the Marvel Universe. But with regards to the tie-ins, I did not enjoy most of them. There were 2, 3, maybe 4 that were good with regards to the writing. But again, even those weren't really connected to the main event. Just characters, not only how characters behaved, but where they were at a certain time did not connect. But I already talked about this more than enough in the overview over there. So just to summarize, do I recommend reading House of M? Yes, absolutely, but only the first 8 issues. And I guess at this point I've said that already 100 times. But where do you find those 8 issues if you don't want to get the omnibus? There's a trade paperback that was released in 2006. There's an oversized hardcover that was released in 2008. Both of those books, based on what I've seen, are still available for a decent price. I think even cover price or under. If you look online, any big online retailers would probably sell you those books. Just checked a minute ago and they were still available. I don't know if CGN, IST, or any of those have those still, but you can check that out. They should not be difficult to come by. If you really have too much time and want to torture yourself, please do read through all of those miniseries and form your own opinion. My recommendation is to read the 8-issue House of M event and then move on. And we're moving on as well. So next week, I promise, without further ado, no more surprise interludes until next week. I can't guarantee that for the week after that. But for next week, we're going to review Road to War of Kings, the War of Kings prelude. Finally getting into this book. I'm very excited to start reading it because I've been holding off on continuing the series for far too long. Again, my first time read. Was a little bit delayed here by reading House of M. But yeah, opening this one up just showed me how much House of M was in the beginning of this. I hope the quality improves. If not, we're going to dive into Guardians of the Galaxy soon, into Nova. And just going to have fun with that. You'll see more reviews of War of Kings and then the aftermath to War of Kings, Realm of Kings behind me. We're going to review those in the following weeks. If you want to go back to the beginning and review Annihilation Conquest with me, you can do that as well. Because at this point, we're probably halfway through our 2.5, 3 months marathon of reviewing the Modern Cosmic Saga by DNA. if you're still around at this point, I'm sure you're subscribed. But if you are not, then please do subscribe so you don't miss the following reviews of Road to War of Kings, and the Aftermath. I may or may not have some surprise interludes coming in the future as well. But again, promise, next week, Road to War of Kings. Stay tuned for that. At this point, I want to say thank you for watching. Please hit that like button if you haven't at this point. And I'll see you next week. This was Literature in Pictures. Until next time, thank you for watching.